Hey, what is up, my YouTubian subscribers? Secure here to do a review on RWBY Volume 5, Chapter 2, Dread in the Air. Now, I'm not going in order of what happens. I'm just gonna go in order because Weiss's is the largest chunk, so I'll talk about her last. So I'm gonna start with what happened at the opening of the chapter and what happens in the middle of the chapter first. So if you haven't watched it yet, leave the review right now because I do spoil the episode when I talk about it. So yeah, thanks. Have a nice day. Anyways, back to it. It opens up with Salem being told what Crow told Leo Lionheart. That's essentially all that we learn in that exchange. Nothing new, except that Tyrion might get a prosthetic tail, and that's it. That's all we know right now. That's the only new information we're given. That being said, there is one interesting type of exchange between Cinder and Salem, which implies that Ruby's silver eyes, the power she used to freeze the Grimoire, turned it into stone, and the power she used to injure Cinder can be used to counter the Maiden's power. At least it's implied that if Ruby has power, if she has control over it, she can kill or take Cinder's power away from her. That being said, since Ruby doesn't even acknowledge it since Volume Three's ending, Cinder has nothing to worry about. At least right now. Now I guess, and it doesn't look like she'll have any reason to use it. Like it took Pierre's death for her to use it before, and that's after everything else that happened. That's after Penny's death. That's after Beacon fell. That's so essentially, to me, Cinder has nothing to worry about right now anyways, unless Ruby gets a major power up somewhere along the lines, then she has nothing to worry about. Next, let's go to Sinedicon and Adam Taurus. Essentially, to me, this is another issue because it was implied by Blake, and it was implied it's implied that he would have to openly conflict with Sinedicon to take over the White Fang. Essentially, all that happens is Adam tries to sway her to his way of thinking. She doesn't agree to it. Essentially, she's an extremist, but he's a violent extremist. The difference, and no, that doesn't. She's willing to use violence, but isn't willing to use violence in a way that Adam is willing to just go out and just do what Adam does. He goes out and kills people. He goes out and murders. She's willing to use violence as a way, violent protests as a way to get the humans not to step on the faunus, essentially. Whereas Adam's like, yeah, no, they should. We're humans plus all of our animal traits. And to me, I'm like, and then he stabs her. Essentially, to me, my biggest issue is when the betrayal is happening. She turns her back on Adam and gets stabbed in the back. To me, I'm like, I don't get it. Like, to me, if Adam was stronger than Sinedicon, fine. If they had fought, fine, and he won, I would have been fine. But the way it just happens, where she turns her back, gets stabbed turns her back on Adam Taurus, a violent extremist, that's very clearly making a play for leadership. I would not have left my eyes off that guy, man, throughout the entire exchange. Nope. As soon as I realized what was happening, because all there were Mook level White Fang members and Hazel. Hazel. Now, to me, again, with Hazel there, she wasn't gonna win that confrontation. That being said, at the end of the confrontation, Hazel's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And Adam's like, "Because it's White Fang business, not business with you and your master." And he's like, "Well, nobody had to die today," and then leaves Adam. Now, to me, that means that Hazel is a semi-pacifist. That means to me that he's willing to use force, but can always wants to use the less violent option to end a confrontation, to me. But that being said, he's in a battle anime, so he's gonna have to fight eventually, and I'm excited. Big dude, not scared in the slightest of Adam Taurus. Yeah, I'm super excited to see Hazel fight. This is, like, to me, seeing Hazel fight, seeing Watt fight is almost as interesting as seeing the rematch between Mercury and Yang. Seeing Yang's confrontation with her mom, There are a lot of things, but I'm super because Tyrion was a highlight of Volume 4, and to me, all Cinder was a highlight of Volume 3. To me, we've been getting highlight after highlight after highlight with the villains. Now, are they well? They're Madara Uchiha. They're not interesting villains, and like the Joker's an interesting villain because of his relationship with the Batman. These guys are just super powered motherfuckers, and to me, that's interesting. Okay, to me, like they're Madara Uchiha. Madara wasn't a good villain. He was just a super powerful OP as fuck villain. And to me, that's where we're at with the current roster of like Salem's inner faction, and I'm excited. Now, to me, let's move on to Weiss because I have a little bit of issues with Weiss's portion of the chapter, but other than that, I think it was a good episode. Essentially, open up with Weiss still flying to Haven. Now, the plane that was attacked yesterday is continuing to be attacked today. It gets destroyed. There's a new type of bee Grim called Lancers that destroy it. And then they attack Weiss's plane. Now Weiss takes initiative immediately. She's like, "What we should have done before," and she attacks the Lancers. Now my main issue with this fight is, first off, it is an interesting fight is as far as Weiss can go, because Weiss isn't really an interesting fighter. She's a support player. She's the team's buff essentially. She's not Yang, she's not Ruby, she's not Blake who take initiative to we've never like the one fight we got with Weiss alone, she lost. She lost to the White Fang lieutenant. She lost to the guy with the trumpet. She's hasn't won. She's lost more than she's won is what I'm getting at. And essentially it happens here again. We see her power just isn't enough to kill Grim on her own. She can kill minor Grim, but when it came to the bee queen, the Lancer queen, it took her literally throwing crates of dust at the guy and blowing them up in order to bring that Grim down. And even then, she only brought it down after the plane was destroyed. After the plane, no, not after the plane was destroyed. After it was damaged enough that it was going down anyways. Okay, so to me that's it. It's an interesting fight, but it isn't a good fight. It's just interesting because it's one of the first times we've seen Weiss fight on her own, and she lost. Her plane went down, and she's captured by Raven Bronwyn and her tribe. That being said, and they recognize her as a Schnee. We just hit the jackpot. What they don't know is that Weiss abandoned her family. And to me, what are they gonna do with a girl they can't use as a freaking bartering chip essentially for Dust or for Liano or whatever they want from the Schnee family? That being said, let's move on. One more issue with this fight is the fact that it is a continuity break. There's a point, actually there's multiple points where she doesn't use her rapier as a conduit for Dust, where she just throws her hand out and creates a fireball out of her hand. Now, if you don't know, Dust doesn't work like that, or at least it shouldn't have worked like that in this episode. Dust essentially always needed a third party before this. Now, you can point towards things like Cinder's dress, where it had Dust embedded into the dress, and say maybe Weiss did that. The problem is, yeah, maybe she did that. That being said, why would she even like? It just it's never implied. There's no what's it called? There's no foreshadowing for her putting Dust into her dress to make an argument that she did. The only thing is it's a continuity break, plain and simple. Next up is that she uses her Grim Knight multiple times. Actually, she's able to teleport it, which honestly to me, it's another issue because she summoned it once. We're forgetting that she struggled to summon it multiple times and she summoned it once. And here she is using it using it and teleporting it essentially. Like she'll summon it. It hits once, she teleports it, or doesn't. She desummons it and then summons it in a different location. She's not teleporting it. She's recreating it in multiple locations, which isn't an issue in itself. It's just how fast and how easily she's doing it. Like, I'm fine with her summoning it and her using it as that's fine to me. But how easily and how fast she did it was a different story entirely. That being said, once again, it's an interesting fight. It just there's a lot of issues with it that I don't enjoy, and like to me, basically, this all but confirms that rather than Haven, they're gonna meet up at. Well, to me, actually, to me, what happened at the end of this chapter, which is Weiss getting captured by Raven Bronwyn's faction, to me, this means that Yang and Weiss and Blake and Ruby are gonna meet up eventually. I mean, like Weiss and Yang are gonna meet up at the bandit camp, and then Blake and Ruby are probably gonna meet up in Haven. That being said, I don't know because it just there are issues. Like I don't know where this chapter is going is my main issue. Like there's there it was implied to me I enjoyed the chapter. It was a good chapter, but there are just I didn't enjoy the Weiss fight, and that's it. I don't mean to make it sound like I have big issues with the chapter as a whole because I enjoyed everything that happened other than the Weiss fight and Sunita Khan going down like a chump. That being said, like I said, next chapter, what are we gonna get next chapter? Probably returning to Ruby and Friends, Ruby and Company. Hopefully Blake leaves Menagerie and goes towards Haven, because I want them back together by the end of this chapter. By the end of this chapter, by the end of this volume. Anyways, that's all I have to say. Secure signing off.